How many Burden of Dreams replicas are there? I dug into the depths of the internet to find 11 unique Burden of Dreams replicas. Or actually 12, depending on how you count it, because I found one that has a replica within a replica. We'll start with the most famous one and continue in no particular order. In case I missed any, please do let me know in the comments. And also thanks to any of you who responded to my question as I was putting this video together. This first one is surely showing up in your Instagram feed. It was set by Aidan Roberts at Lattice Training. And this one definitely was made famous by Bosi, as we saw a lot of his training on this replica prior to him going to Finland and sending the real Burden of Dreams. And of course, though, we've seen Stefano Ghisolfi and Aidan Roberts himself training on this replica. And recently there have been some fun videos popping up of other maybe amateur climbers or other pro climbers trying this out. And so we have some videos here from Josh Rundle, Pete Whitaker, starting to really get an idea of, if we didn't already know, how difficult this boulder is. For those of you who are fans of Aidan Roberts, we'll be talking about him again in a moment with another replica. So number 2 here is a Burden of Dreams replica in Italy. I believe it was set by Elias Iagnemma, and we see both him and Stefano Ghisolfi training on this replica. Let's take a look at one of Stefano's posts about this one. Stefano says, "Night session on the Burden replica with Elias and at Blockland Climbing Center. I guess it is time to fly to Finland." And this was before his first trip to the real boulder in Finland. Let's take a look at some of the photos here. It does look like they're using a pulley system here, similar to what we saw Bosi do at Lattice Training. And we've got some close-up photos here of this replica. And you can see, again, the accuracy here with these kind of 3D printed holds, similar to Aidan Roberts' replica. For our third replica, let's head over to another one that Stefano Ghisolfi has been training on more recently. And he posted about this on Instagram. I love this here. He says, "Last move, plus 4 kg, Burden, I'm coming for you." And this is after his first trip to Finland, so he's talking about getting ready for a second trip. And I love here that he's actually adding weight as opposed to what we've seen, not on the last move, but on the first move, where Bosi was taking weight off in order to send that first move. So apparently Stefano Ghisolfi is clearly taking this very serious and gearing up for his second trip to Finland. We've got a bunch more replicas coming up, but I'm curious to know your opinion. Are replicas the future of training at the top end of our sport? Are they being overhyped? Do they perhaps corrupt the beauty of purely training on real rock? I'm sure you have some thoughts, and I'd love to hear them in the comments. For Burden replica number 4, we have Russian climber Vadim Timonov, who had traveled to Lap Nor and did a little bit of movement on the real Burden of Dreams, but then we also see him here. He was taking measurements, looking at the distance between holds, and figuring out the angle of the wall. And then in this next episode here, they had set a replica of Burden of Dreams on a moonboard at their climbing gym. And we don't see that same detail of like 3D climbing holds, but definitely it seems like quite a bit of accuracy here in terms of the movements that we would see on Burden of Dreams. I did ask Vadim on the Climb Hub YouTube channel. I said, "Have you still been training on the replica? Any chance to visit Finland this year?" He replied, I believe it was him under the Climb Hub user here, and he said, "I climbed a replica a couple of months ago, even after making it a little bit more complicated than what we see in the video here. Unfortunately, I can't get to Finland right now. The game is temporarily over for me." So hopefully Vadim will be able to travel to Finland again in the future. He does seem to have a pretty accurate replica here, and it's fun to see his attempts on this replica. Next up here at number 5, we have a Burden of Dreams replica that is a little bit more unique, something that is probably more attainable for the average climber. And we see that this was posted here by Miguel Climbs, who, by the way, has an incredible YouTube channel around the topic of bouldering, and definitely go check out his channel. But we see this episode here that he posted recently, Burden of Dreams V8 ? The Refuge Climb replica. So this was set at the Refuge Climbing and Fitness in Las Vegas. and it was set by one of the route setters there, Dom Arcana, and you can see him here working the replica. And so it's fun to see some climbing gyms around the country putting up these types of replicas. Of course, not a V17 version, but something that kind of mimics those movements, and again, gives us as climbers an idea of how incredibly difficult this climb is, even when it's reduced to something like a V8 level climb. We do see a pretty cool Instagram post from Miguel Climbs as well, and let's take a look at that here. He says, fresh off the plane and straight to the refuge to try the Burden of Dreams V8 replica. Welcome back, Jonathan Segrist. Congrats again on stoking the fire, 515B. This man never stops fighting. Off to Finland next, JK. But we see Jonathan Segrist here on this V8 replica of Burden of Dreams. So pretty accurate here. Again, not 3D holds, not necessarily all the components of this climb, but of course this is V8, an easier version of Burden of Dreams for mere mortals. Next up at number 6, we have a Burden of Dreams replica that you may have seen from a climber who you definitely know. Let's check it out here. It was posted by Adam Ondra. He says, following the hype of Burden of Dreams replica, we have one set by David Perina at around 8A. And we see Adam here successfully climbing this Burden of Dreams replica. And again, something more like set on a board, set on a spray wall here. Not necessarily the same accuracy as some of the other ones we've talked about, but pretty cool to see Adam Ondra weighing in on this. And then on this post, Will Bosi comments and says, conditions are pretty perfect right now. This was it. This was when Will Bosi was in Finland projecting Burden of Dreams. And we even see a reply here from Adam Ondra. He says, Will Bosi sounds great, but I guess I need to get rid of a different burden first. It is quite a big one. And we saw Adam post recently on his YouTube channel about his progress on Project Big. Hey, real quick, if you're getting value out of this video, please consider subscribing to August Climbing. It took some significant work to compile this video, and it's super helpful to know when you as the viewer are getting value out of this video and essentially saying, I want to see more content like this. For Burden of Dreams replica number 7, we have Japanese climber Toru Nakajima. Let's look at one of his recent Instagram posts. Toru posted about this never stopping challenge. And if we scroll over to the next photo, we see a close-up of one of the holds on Burden of Dreams. And then the next one is an artificial hold on his replica of Burden of Dreams. That's what I was thinking it was. I did ask him in the comments here, is this a Burden of Dreams replica that you're training on? And he was nice enough to reply and confirm that yes, indeed it is. Now, we only see one hold of his replica here, so I went digging around to see what else I might be able to find about his replica. I did come across this post from quite a while ago in 2019 by Nale Hukataibel. Let's look at that. Nale said, was motivating to see a couple of Japan's strongest in action on Burden of Dreams today, Toru and Ryohei. And equally impressive to see the accurate reproduction holds they've been training on. Rad to see technology enabling new things and ways in climbing. Wish Toru and Ryohei best with their efforts on Burden. And it's cool to see a couple things here. One, this post is from 2019. So if you thought Burden of Dreams replicas were a new thing, which I kind of did for a while, well, not so much. They've actually been around for a while. And we also get to see here some of Nale's thoughts on the idea of training on a replica. He does seem to have a pretty positive opinion on it, but we still don't get an idea of maybe what this replica looks like. I thought, okay, maybe this is it, but I dug even deeper on Instagram, and let me show you what I found here. There's this post from 8611 online store, and it shows this spread from a magazine here where Toru is climbing on this Burden of Dreams replica. We've got this wider shot here where we can really see those orange holds and to see him training on this replica. And hopefully we'll get to see Toru Nakajima out in Finland again soon for more attempts on this boulder. Now for Burden of Dreams replica number 8, Let's talk about Japanese climber Ryohei Kameyama. We just talked about him a little bit, but it turns out that he also has his own replica. And let's look at this post from June 5th, 2021. Ryohei says, "Last trip, I couldn't stick the first move on Burden of Dreams. After the trip, I made a simulation problem in the gym. I finally managed to stick the first move. I feel I'm getting stronger little by little." And at first we saw here this clip of him climbing on the real Burden of Dreams. And then it switches over, looks like a moon board here, to see this problem that he set. And it's pretty cool, the accuracy that he's got here with the sequence. So you see him doing that foot walk and then he falls off. But I would give this, a pretty high mark for accuracy, even if it's not, those 3D scanned holds. He definitely seems to be working the proper sequence. And who knows, maybe we'll see him again out there on the real boulder in Finland. For replica number 9, this one was suggested by a viewer, so I really appreciate you sharing this. And that was to look at the Kilter board to see what types of Burden of Dreams replicas have been set. After a little bit of searching in the app, I found this one by Crafted Sam. It's set as a 7A or V6 climb at 40 degrees. And I found a couple of videos on Instagram of 2 different climbers climbing on this Burden of Dreams Kilter board replica. So let's take a look at how they did. First one here is posted by Emily Nicole Love. She says, "More Kilter board sends and a few falls, all at 30 degrees. And the last one that she posts here is Burden of Dreams V8, and watch her attempt on this climb. So it's pretty cool to see here, again, something a bit more attainable for the average climber. She seems to be doing a great job on this Kilter board replica. Just barely misses that last hold. But let's take a look at another example of this same replica. I'm not quite sure how I would go about pronouncing his username here, but he says 7C plus on 30 degrees, so definitely 8A on 45 degrees. Burden of Dreams on the Kilter board. Let's watch how he does here on this climb. So it doesn't have all the same movement or sequence as, of course, the real Burden of Dreams, but pretty neat to see that kind of final move there where he swings out a little bit, sort of reminiscent of climbers that we've seen on the real Burden of Dreams in Finland. So if you have access to a Kilter board, you can also now try a Burden of Dreams replica. For replica number 10, I felt like this was kind of a bonus one because I sort of just stumbled across this one, wasn't expecting to find it. It's by Tietovisa, and this is on TikTok. Let's take a look here. So a pretty well-crafted TikTok short form video here. We see kind of these wooden holds, some slow motion, it's cut in a few different places. But pretty impressive with that foot walk sequence, and you see how far his right foot comes out there. And then let's watch him go for the final hold. Looks like he's trying hard, which is fun. Oh, of course, he's got to bump his hands up a bit first before going for that final top hold. And slow motion. You're going to see a swing out here, but he hits it nicely. And it's pretty cool to see. Oh, I guess he decides to even go up a little bit higher. Almost looked like he was going to top out there. I promised you 11 or maybe 12 replicas, and we've only done 10. So let's jump into this next one here. This one was also set by Aidan Roberts in more of like his home gym. And I also promised you a replica within a replica. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that here. Let's take a look at Aidan Roberts climbing on this replica. He's got a great YouTube video on this. Definitely check this out. And in fact, in the description, I'll be linking to all of these replicas in case you want to do your own deep dive into them. So training for 9A/V17 boulder, Aidan Roberts board climbing. And if we get into the video starting at around 8.5 minutes, this is when Aidan starts to talk about some of his board replicas, and chief among them, this Burden of Dreams one. We see these awesome blue holds here by Core Climbing, I believe is the company that made them. Again, based on Aidan's 3D scans. So it appears to be that this one was set even before the one at Lattice Training. And okay, so here it is. We've got these blue holds, but do you notice these wooden holds next to the blue holds? So that's like the second replica within the replica. And if you continue watching this video, Aidan talks about how these 3D crafted holds are not so good for the fingers, just like we've learned about the real Burden of Dreams. But once he's done some training on these 3D replica holds, if his fingers have been, fairly torn up and can't quite handle that anymore, he'll jump over or bump over to these kind of wooden holds. They're a little bit nicer on the fingers, but allows him to still practice the movement and the sequences. So, in my opinion, this would be the ultimate Burden of Dreams replica to be training on if you were serious about wanting to send the real Burden of Dreams. And you get the benefit here of the 3D holds, but also that option to work the one that would be nicer on your fingers. So if you wanted to talk to a pro climber about training on replicas, I think Aidan Roberts would be the guy to talk to. But does all of your new knowledge about Burden of Dreams replicas even matter? Except within the context of Will Bosi's historic repeat of the boulder. Have I got the video for you? Hey, my name is August. Thank you so much for watching.